Hi everyone, welcome to our channel Amar General Info. Today I will be sharing with you Angular Experience Developer interview. If you are not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and keep watching. Let's get started. Yeah, Lakshmi, can you tell me about yourself?
Uh, yeah, and here to talk about my roles and responsibility. Being individual contributor, I do handle the team of 6 members, and from requirement gathering to complete release activity, I'll be involving in all phases of the software development activity.
Okay, good. Okay, shall we start some Angular technical questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so which version you are currently working? Like Angular 8 or 10?
8.
Angular 8.
8.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you aware of any like new features Angular 13?
Angular 13, like IV compilers, they have made it as mandatory.
Okay.
But recent 13 changes I have not gone through with the documents. I will have to go through with that.
Okay. Okay. So can you tell me the features of Angular 8? At least Angular 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When yeah, when Angular 8 was introduced, so they have made AOT as mandatory,
Mm.
and we can opt for AOT,
Mm.
or we can disable it in Angular JSON. And then they had introduced IV compiler, but it was optional. And in the later version, they have made it as mandatory. So they have improved few packages like in core. Earlier everything was there in the core, so they have segregated from a few animation packages and other packages from core, and they have separated it. So majorly it was AOT, but other than that, like small changes.
Okay. Good. Okay. So can you explain the like Angular lifecycle hooks?
Yeah. So coming to Angular lifecycle hooks, first I'll give the list and then I will explain what it does.
Mm-hmm.
And first, initially it will start with constructor, and then ng it on changes, and then ng on init, and then it will run ng to check, and then ng after content init, and ng after content do check, and then ng after view init, and ng after view checked, and ng destroy. So initially constructor will be called when the component loads in the browser. So in constructor we can have a default values to be set or anything before the DOM loads. If we want to do anything, that we can do in constructor. And ng on changes triggers every change detection runs in the template, and then ng on init will run after the ng on changes, and it runs when the DOM is ready. When the DOM is downloads in the browser, and then it gets ready, the ng on changes will be run. And at that time, if you want to load any of the default values, or if we can assign any of the like creating any objects or services, that we can do it in ng on changes. Later ng2 check will be called, and it will detect the change detections, and then ng content view init and ng content do check will execute. That will be have the content projection references, the changes and everything we can do over there. And then ng view init and view check, that is for view child references. And then ng destroy, if we want to unsubscribe any of the subscriptions or to destroy any of the object, that we can do it in ng on destroy.
Yeah. Good one. Okay. Okay. So can you explain the different type of pipes? So what is the usage of pipes? Can you explain? So where we have to
Yeah.
use? Yeah.
So Yeah, so basically pipes are one of the building blocks of the Angular, and here we use pipes for filtering the data. So if we have any n number of data, if we want to filter only based on some condition, or if we want to display the data in some format, there we can use the pipe. There are two types of pipes are there: pure pipes and impure pipes. And pure pipes will run only when the change detection happens, and any model changes. Any model changes, then the pure pipes will run. And if it has to run for each and every keystroke or any event, then impure pipes will run. So we will be having inbuilt pipes and custom pipes we can achieve by creating our own pipes. So like inbuilt pipes are like ascending, descending order, date pipes, or like that, etc. And then customized pipes, we can define our own pipe, like by using @pipe decorator, and in the selector we can give the pipe name, and we have to mention whether it is pure or impure. That selector name we can have it in our attribute in the template, and then we can use that as customized pipe.
I used like date pipe.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you like shown in the UTC format or GMT time zone?
So actually, in our project we have not used, but I know, like if we want to use the date pipe with in the interpolation, we will have to mention date, and we have to mention whether we need GST or USD format.
Okay, okay, okay. Can you explain the like different type of bindings? What are the types?
Okay. Yeah, in Angular there are two types of bindings are there. That is one-way binding and two-way binding. So one-way binding is like either it is from a template to a component, or component to template. Like it will be defined like a square bracket or angular bracket. If it is square bracket, it will be assigned from component to template, and if it is angular, then from template to component. If we mention both, then it will be like two-way binding, and we can bind the variables or any expression in by using string interpolation also.
Okay. So you explain one way, two way binding. So a lot of binding is there, like event binding and attribute binding. So what is event binding?
Yeah.
In
So
Angular?
basically in Angular templates, if we want to bind any of the events, example like click, if we have any button, if we want to do any click or anything, usually in traditional application we will be having on click. So but here in Angular we have different event binding. A click will be enclosed in the Angular bracket, and we will mention the method name. So when the click event occurs, that subsequent method will be executed from the component. And attribute binding is like if we have any of the directives or anything, if we want to apply to the elements, there we can use the attribute binding.
Okay. What is router outlet?
So router outlet is like it is the placeholder in which router whenever the router navigation happens, that component will be loaded in that place.
Okay. Is it possible to add more than one?
It is not possible to have more than one in one single module.
Okay. Okay. Can you explain the RTNG module inside? What are the properties is there? Can you explain?
Sorry,
Can you explain
I
at the
didn't
rate
hear.
of NG module? So
@ng module.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So that actually Angular modules are one of the building blocks of the application, and in that modules will be defined in @ng module decorator.
Okay.
So inside that it will be having like what all the directives, components, routes, or providers, whatever that module contains, everything will be subscribed in that ng module. So imports will be what all the imports, if we want to import any of the module, that also it will be there in that ng module. Services will be there in the providers, and the components will be in the declarations.
Okay, so in that ng model there bootstrap one attribute is there. What is that bootstrap?
Basically, in the main Angular module, in that ng module, it will be their bootstrap component. So whenever the application bootstrapped, that particular component will get executed. Example, if we have app component as our master page, so if we mention that in that bootstrap component, it will be bootstrapped with that component.
Okay, so fine. So can you explain the lazy routing? Yeah.
Okay, so lazy loading is one of the a feature in Angular for optimizing the application, improving the loading time, initial loading time. So basically, whenever we define all the routes in main Angular route, so everything will be downloaded when the application downloads in the browser for the first time itself. So if the application is large, it will be very it will be delayed whenever the application loads for the first time. So what we can do, so we can achieve this, we can overcome this with the lazy loading. So whenever the application loads, only the necessary components will be loaded, and that will be there in the main module. And we can introduce lazy loading, and the child route will be there in the modules which are inside the main module. So in that module again we will define the routes, and that route will be registered with main routes. In that routes with the path, if I have main module, and if I have another, like example customer module, if I mention customer slash with that basic routes, whatever the component or any navigation URL comes, it will route to that particular module routes, and that component will be loaded. That is the lazy loading.
Okay, so what's the difference between like navigate and navigate by URL?
So navigate by URL. It will uh, it will give complete URL of that component. Example, um, uh, dot navigate. It will be if we use navigate, it will check on the path. Navigate by URL, it will check on the component name.
Okay, yeah, logical question. So obviously we required like login module every applications. So how did you
Yes.
authenticate and authorize users?
So basically, if I in the current application we have only one admin user,
Okay.
but if we have multiple user like in other projects, so there we can achieve through. There are many ways, but one way we can use it as JWT token, and we can use the interceptors that will set the JWT token for that headers for all the HTTP APIs. So that will be common to the application. That based on that JWT token only, all the data, everything, it will be fetched from the API.
Okay, what is root guard?
So basically, if based on the authorization, if some users have the permission to navigate to some pages, and if some users are not having the permission to go to some other page, that authorization we can handle through route cards.
Okay, so where did you handle like session time and some session variables?
So we can we can do that by using either session storage or local storage. So if we use a local storage, it will be common to the system. But if we use session storage, it will be particular to only that session.
Okay. Okay. So can you explain the shared module?
Yeah, so shared modules are like if we want to use any of the components more than one time in different modules, that we can keep it in one module, and that will be registered in main Angular module. So if we use that, if we register that module in the main module, other subsequent modules they can use the components directly in the other templates or components.
Okay. Do you know aware of shared library?
Sorry.
Shared library, shared library.
Uh, Actually, I didn't get chance to work on that.
Okay. And that just awareness question, ma. No issue. Okay,
Yeah,
that's fine. Okay, so can you explain the like HTTP module, HTTP client module?
yeah. So HTTP client module is one of the node package introduced in Angular. So with that we can achieve HTTP APIs call request and response in the Angular application. If we have HTTP client module registered with that Angular module, we can have the providers and providers in the providers we can have a services, and that will be applicable to all the applicable or accessible to all other subsequent components. And there we can use HTTP get, put, delete other APIs uh, through either we can achieve that through observables or promises, depends on our application requirement. To use those kinds of functionalities, we will have the HTTP client module.
Okay, good. So have you worked any like Flex module? Flex.
No, I didn't get chance to work on Flex.
Okay, okay. So which design framework are you work like Material or Bootstrap?
No, actually, in my earlier project, I was using Bootstrap, but here our client is NetApp, so they have their own NetApp web framework. Like how Angular Material is there, they have their own theme, everything. So we will have to use that only.
Okay. You know Material framework? Material Angular
Yeah,
Material.
yeah, and Material how to work I know,
Okay.
but practically I have not worked in any of the product, but I know like how to add the material, buttons, cards, tabs, everything.
Okay. Okay. Okay, fine. You know like stepper design. This is for design part of question. Okay. You know stepper form design. Are you work
Uh,
stepper
uh,
form design? Because we have huge
mm,
form, we have to split it out one step completed, then move to second step like the design.
okay, but practically I have not worked on that. That we can achieve through like by using different components with different forms, and having the data to be passed from one component to another component.
Okay, okay. Have you worked like tab based design? Tab group.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So how did you load like different type of tabs? Tab 1, tab 2, tab 1 wants to some data, tab 2 wants to serve some data.
So we can achieve through like passing the data from one component to another component. So different tab will be having different components. So whenever the component loads, if I want to take from one component to another component any of the data, by using if the components are related like child or parent or child, we can transfer it through @input or @output or view child. And if the components are completely different, then we can pass the data through services.
Okay. Have you worked any like obviously required dialog box? So how did you call the reference and shown in the dialogs model? I want to show some content in the dialog model. For example, employee details. Yeah.
That actually for practically I have not worked on that, but I know like that we can achieve through by using entry components.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, dynamically we can create that component.
Okay. Have you worked any like dashboard related design like bar chart, pie chart?
Actually, in my previous company, we had one project of a dashboard,
Mm-hmm.
but that was a different team. But I do know like basics of that. They are
Mm-hmm.
using NG.
Okay. 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 So, for example, we have grid. We have loaded all the data at a time. So I want to customize the grid pagination. So, what are the steps you have to follow for customize the pagination? What are the parameters required? Yeah.
Okay, so basically that we can achieve with different types.
Mm.
Example, if we initially loads,
Mm.
then we can achieve. Then we can say if we have APIs and UI both are like communicated properly, and if we have chance, then we can modify the APIs. Like we will send a page number, and based on that page number we will get the response, and we will display only that much data. Or if we don't have that, then we can achieve through like scrolls, or we can achieve through like sockets, web sockets. Example, we can call the data after some 5 seconds or sometime if we scroll down. So in that like that also we can achieve. So based on our application requirement, we can implement that.
Okay. Okay. So we have a lot of directives. Can you tell me the ng syntax? So how did you iterate the content in the UI?
ng if
Yeah. Sorry, ng for. Sorry, ma.
uh, so ng for basically for structural directive we will use a star in the beginning.
Mm.
So star ng for equal to let if we want to iterate some 10 example, we have 10 names, we have to display that names 10 names, so that we can achieve like star ng for equal to let name of names.
Mm-hmm.
In the subsequent child attribute we can display that name.
Okay. Same like we have like employee details using ng for. So I want to show
Yeah.
each employee image in the left side corner. So each row, okay, image, then appending with name. So how did you design, and then how did you iterate? Earlier you shown iterate, then how did you shown in the HTML page?
So example, we can achieve that in two ways.
Mm.
One is from blob and one is from base64.
Mm.
If the image is stored in base64 of the application,
Mm.
so if we can achieve like employee details,
Mm.
and in that employee dot image,
Mm-hmm.
in that particular frame image will be there, and employee dot name,
Mm.
there we can display the name.
Okay. What's the attribute for image showing?
Employee dot image
Okay.
if the image is stored as base64,
Okay. Okay.
or we can achieve it through by blob.
Okay. But I'm expecting like HTML tag. How did you show the image?
Okay, like open img tag.
Okay, that's what I'm expecting. Okay, fine. Okay. So what is the difference like difference between like package.json and package lock.json?
Okay. So package.json, initially whatever the packages we are using, scripts we are writing, everything will be there in that package.json. If it is any dev dependency or production based dependencies, that also we will mention the package.json. Whenever the first time application loads all the packages from that JSON, it will be downloaded. So for the first time it will create package.log file. So for the next time it will not download all the packages, it will be cached over there and it will be taken from that.
Okay. So one like so we have developed like using Angular 2 or 3. So client
Okay.
wants to move into Angular 8, migrate into Angular
Yeah.
8. So what are the
Yeah.
steps we have to follow to migrate Angular 8?
Yeah, so from Angular 2 to Angular 8, it is very easy to migrate. The only changes uh, we might have do for like Angular 2 was using Webpack, but now in Angular 8 we have Angular CLI, so that we will have to change, and then few config files will have to change, and we have a documentation in the standard Angular. If we want to migrate from Angular JS to Angular or Angular 2 to Angular 8, so all those steps we can follow, but major change is from Webpack to Angular CLI.
Okay. Okay, fine. So how did you update like Angular CLI? Can you tell me the command? For example,
Okay,
Angular
so
CLI.
basically,
Yeah,
command
good.
Angular C to have Angular CLI JSON.
Mm-hmm.
So for that we can initially first we can create empty project by using ng new the project name. So in that all the basic structure will come, so we can migrate the other components from there to here.
Okay. So coming to the TypeScript. Okay. So TypeScript, it is fully object oriented program. So what is the interface?
So interfaces are like it will be having the declaration but not the definition inside that. By using that interface, we can define the interfaces in the subsequent classes or where we implement that.
Okay. So
Basically, it will be having.
okay. Okay. Can you explain the different type of for loops?
So here we have like for normal for loop, like for uh, int I equal to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus something like that, and then we have for each loop, and then we have um, one more for it. One is for each,
Okay.
and one we can achieve through let keyword.
Okay. You know record type? Are you used in your project record?
No.
Okay. So how did you convert like a string to float or integer?
Okay, so we can do that by example. If I want to uh, convert the type, we can use as keyword, as integer, as string in the TypeScript.
Okay. You know enumeration, enum.
Yeah, enumeration will be like one of the data structure. It will be having heterogeneous types.
Okay.
It will be key value paired, and we can get the values through that keys.
Okay. Okay. So one scenario based question. Okay. So we have like 10 product. Okay. Back end they are given 10 products in the product list. each product contains like product name, product ID, product description, like that. So I want to get it only product name, so appending with comma each product comma, and added in the another product, then added in the another product. So I want to show in the single, get it in the single string and shown in the UAE, binding in the UAE. So how did you
Okay,
achieve this?
that we can
Yeah.
string functions.
Mm-hmm.
We'll split that with empty empty space, and then we can join that by using comma.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then it will return to string.
Okay, fine. What is the use of any data type?
Basically, any is of it will be initially, it will not hold any of the type.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we declare any variable with any type, whenever we assign the value for that variable, it will dynamically takes that type.
Okay. So once you you have done the development or completed application, so how did you like build and deploy your application?
So basically, we will build that by using ng dist folder.
Mm-hmm.
The dist folder will be created, and ng build and ng dist folder will be created,
Mm-hmm.
and that we will be deploying in the server.
Okay. So once give ng build, then what happened inside your project folder?
So all the components, everything will be minified to JavaScript and the basic HTML,
Mm-hmm.
and then it will create the bundle. In that bundle, it will be if we have any of the static file, that will be created in assets folder, and in polyfills, whatever the rules will be there, that will be applicable to Typescript, and it will convert to normal JavaScript, and all the compilation, everything happens before that. If we use AOT, everything will compile before that only. So whenever application loads, it will load whatever the bundles it is there in that dist folder.
Okay, fine. Coming to the review part, then who is reviewed your code?
So here actually for Angular code, I will only review,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the other senior person is there.
Mm-hmm.
They will review my code.
Okay.
Usually, two-person will review the code.
Okay, good. Have you worked agile methodology or?
Yeah, we use agile methodology, and we do daily scrums, and we have a sprint of 1 month,
Mm-hmm.
and a major release of 6 months.
Okay, fine. Hey, have you faced any like performance issues or any challenges in your project? Can you explain me?
Yeah, so earlier in our project, in this project, we don't have that much issue
Mm-hmm.
because earlier it was there in AngularJS version, and we migrated to Angular 8, and we used all of the latest features.
Mm-hmm.
But in my previous project, we had because started with the Angular 2 version,
Mm-hmm.
and later whenever the Angular versions releases, we used to update like introducing lazy loading and interpolations,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, interceptors, and having the common modules and using the services. So we have overcome those performance issues.
Okay, fine. Have you worked any like inheritance concept, like one component to another component, one component extends to another component?
No, practically I have not worked. I didn't
Okay,
get chance to work on that like that.
okay, okay, fine. You know that arrow function, TypeScript?
Yeah.
And
So arrow functions are introduced in year 6 and they are like shorthand functions. So it will be not having function keyword and it doesn't uh, have any of the this object for that this keyword for that particular function. It will take parent reference only. It will be not having its own reference and it will be assigned to any of the variable it can be assigned.
okay. In RxJS, what is observable?
Yeah, observables are like basically for handling asynchronous calls. We use observables in Angular. So observables are like that will be created first, and then it will be registered observer. And once the observer will get subscribed, then only the observables will get executed.
Okay. So, are you get a chance to like unit testing framework Jasmine and Karma using that framework?
Actually, recently we have done POC on that. In the upcoming sprint, we will have to do the.
Okay. What if you use up that spec file? We have 4 files. Once we generate the component, it is generated 4 files. One of the extension dot spec file. What is that?
In unit testing.
Okay. So we have developed one complete applications. So clients wants to add like language supported like English, French, Hindi like that. Then
Yeah,
yeah, how did
yeah.
you design and how did you
That
work out? Yeah, right.
achieved through IIT Next.
Sorry.
IIT Next globalization
Okay.
package.
Okay. So same like we want to change theme. So customize the theme. I want to change like blue to pink.
That we can easily achieve through themes, this MATLAB themes, Angular material themes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Fine, Lakshmi. Almost I covered. Okay. Yeah. You want to ask anything?
Yeah, actually, what are the technologies you are working on this project with Angular in
Uh,
backend?
Whatever you explained, right? So uh, for front end like Angular 10,
Yeah,
Angular 10
yeah.
and material design. So HTML,
Okay,
CSS, JavaScript like that. So front end, this is the technology. So backend for Spring Boot application. Spring Boot with
okay,
microservices.
okay. So you suggest me any of the area of improvement for me?
Price, no issues, ma.
Okay,
You're a good one. No issues. Thanks for your time. Have a nice
thank you.
day. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for watching. If you have any Angular related queries, please feel free to write the queries in the comment section. So if you are not subscribed my channel, please subscribe. Thank you.